And then we will get my details. I don't know. What are we going to do?
Because I need to know what
they come and catch you and say, it's going to be a very decent way.
But thank you so much.
Just like, sometimes and like, those influencers sitting here. So that you stop them now last like 600 people.
Now, let's have the next session, that is on regulatory landscape and ethical consideration for AI and Fintech. For this, I would like to invite Mr. Christou, Non-Executive Director at LuLu Financial Holdings from UAE. Let's also welcome our panelist, Dr. Nilay Ranjan Singh, Chief Executive Officer from State Bank of India from UAE. Dom from Independence Consultant DS Payments from UK. Amira, founder and CEO Time Guardian from UAE, and Sheikh Shabad, partner E&Y from India. I welcome them on the stage, and over to you, moderator.
Welcome, Amira.
We're missing a person. Okay. It's okay. No worries. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. We're sorry for this a little bit delay, but we'll promise that we'll keep it sharp and interesting. So, I would like to present my panel, but before I do that, the first thing is that we have to know that AI is good. It is here to stay, but there are things that we have to consider, like the regulatory aspect, because we're living in a highly regulated environment, especially in the financial services, and ethical, because we ultimately are humans. And we have to take into consideration the ethical aspect. So, by having this in mind, I would like to introduce the panel, okay? And I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us a few things about you, Mrs. Amira.
So my name is Amira Solomon. I'm born and brought up here in the UAE, have 25 years experience into the banking field. Done 360 view of the full retail business, starting from credit analyst up till head of sales and distribution for FAB. So then I have my first remittance marketplace, which I've exited last year. I'm now into the Web3, having multiple protocol launched under Time Guardian SR. One of them is data transmission. You can transmit data up till 100 years for your beloved ones. And the second one is the protocol which enabling the merchants or the SMEs to accept crypto payments.
Thank you, Ms. Amira. Mr. Shahab.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sheikh Shadab. I'm a partner in the UAE firm of UI. I mainly look after the financial services clients, advise them on 3 subjects mainly. It includes AI, cyber, and privacy. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. Very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you. I'm Dr. Nilay. I'm CEO of State Bank of India, one of the largest bank in India. And we're the 4th most trusted bank globally. And as for me, I have worked in almost every department of the banking, whatever it is, credit, trade, finance, risk, IT, credit, management, international banking, everything. Have been trained, unfortunately, I have been trained and got degree in almost every area wherever it requires banking or finance. And I have 3 languages, French, Spanish, and German.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nilay. Mrs. Amira, I want to know about the regulatory aspect of AI. So can you shed a little bit light of what regulatory aspects do we have in place currently from your experience?
So let me tell you about the regulatory aspect. So the UAE especially has been leader in this. In 2017, they launched the full framework for how they will enable the government and make it fully intelligent in order to align with the AI. Even they put the regulation for the private sector in order to align and be fully digital. They've launched the strategy which will be up till 2031. So the framework is there. And as mentioned in the previous speech by His Highness Maher, what the AI is not a new thing for us. When we've been into the banking and we start reading the documents through the OCR, this is a kind of AI. When we've been doing the credit, trying to automate it, because I've been head of credit earlier, this is an AI. We've been putting the codes and the tabs in order to have the system give instant decisions. So the AI is not from 2017, it's long time back. We are using and we are improving, and it's a journey. And we need to know that we need to learn through the journey. This is how I see the AI, and I'm really aligned with the vision of Sheikh Mohammed, His Highness, and how they are taking forward the AI. I'm really believing in what they are doing.
Thank you. I believe that the regulation is still to come. The correct regulation is still to come. There are many aspects and many tries to regulate pieces of AI, because we all know that it is a general aspect. AI is a 2 letters word that is widely used, but most of us, we use it indifferent. So, shut up. You as a consultant, you consult your people and your customers, okay, to use AI. Correct?
Correct, yes.
How do you consider the most important thing to prioritize while implementing AI?
Yeah, I think there is many things to consider, but for today's session, I'll prioritize 3 of them. And first and foremost, with all the regulations and standards that are there across Middle East and North Africa, whether you talk about Saudi, there are specific regulations from the central bank, National Cyber Agency, SADAYA, which is the new regulator which has come up in Saudi. There are so many of the regulators who are talking about one thing in common, which is data residency. Nobody wants data to travel out. And if you think about large language models being rolled out, like so OpenAI and stuff like that, what they provide you is an API or a way to connect to their large language model, which means whenever you're using their large language model, your data is going outside the jurisdiction, and regulators are not okay with that. So one of the top considerations that we are advising our client is make sure you understand the jurisdictional requirement in terms of data privacy, data residency, because regulators will fret on you if the data goes out, and especially if the data is of personal in nature, national security concern nature, then you have to be very, very careful when you're sending these data out, because all these APIs will send out the data outside the jurisdiction. So that's number one concern around advisory. Number two is around use cases. There are so many discussions going on around use of AI, whether it's on the customer front, operations front, or finance or stuff like that. I think organizations need to think, whether it's fintech, banks, insurtechs, or regtech, or whatever, they need to be very careful in terms of what they're trying to do with AI. So, for example, if it's a simple conversational chatbot that a fintech company is trying to roll out, the repercussions from a risk point of view is probably around bias. And my previous speaker talked about what if the conversational chatbot becomes biased and advises you based on the profile and which it has developed over a period of time. So biasness becomes a big concern when it comes to chatbots. But if you're using AI for process automation, let's say, for example, credit risk scoring automation, now in there, I think transparency, explainability, those kinds of stuff becomes a lot more important. But if you're using AI for, let's say, a decision-making process, a transaction monitoring happening, and you're using AI to literally block things, which means the AI agent is taking decision on behalf of people, that becomes a lot more problematic. So the risk profile you see changes from use case to use case. So another top consideration that we are advising our client is make sure whatever use case you're looking at, you assess the risk and take appropriate action, because if you're talking about bias, you need to think about certain controls vis-a-vis if you're talking about explainability, then the controls differ. So that's the second part, risk profile of use case. And the third, most important, is AI is highly cross-functional. So whoever is rolling it out, don't consider it as a tech project. It's not a tech project. You have to have cross-skilling of people, you have to have business involved, you have to have data team involved, because without the right data, not everything will fail. And of course, the tech people, compliance people, because there could be regulatory repercussions. So in summary, it's the data residency, that's top consideration, risk assessment of the use cases, and making sure you're thinking about controls properly. And thirdly, the cross-functional nature and making sure that all the stakeholders in the organizations are involved.
Thank you, Shadab. It's very good that you mentioned those aspects. I will park them for a moment. Welcome, Mr. Dom. I would like to ask you the question that I asked also Mrs. Amira here. Europe, the most advanced, coded uncoded advanced regulator or regulatory aspect of AI today. Well, I don't know tomorrow, but today. Can you please tell us a few things about how Europe and UK, if is regulates AI?
Yeah, sure. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for being late, but I had an emergency with my work.
No problem.
So, a couple of seconds to introduce myself. I sit in the governance of the new payment architecture at Bank of England, so I think that your question is really appropriate. And I'd like to recall something that someone said in the morning related to artificial intelligence. That is something very important to understand the regulatory perspective. Artificial intelligence is old. It's not something that is happening today. I think that is the gentleman sitting there, that is an engineer, that he said in the morning that maybe he's 30 years old. I'm also an engineer, and I remember that artificial intelligence is something that the first computers start to understand. The difference is the hundreds of million pictures of the cat that you mentioned today, that today we can process quickly, but in the reality, artificial intelligence has always been there. now what is happening? To your point, Europe and the UK are moving to real-time payments. So it means that the European Central Bank set up the minimum amount of transaction to be settled in 5,000 transactions per second. So think that, like my friends from Barclays say, when you have a problem in real time, it's already happened. So you need to predict, you need to understand, you need to deal with the liquidity in order to be, and not only on outbound transaction, but even inbound, because for the treasury perspective, having amount of liquidity without being able to invest is a problem. But the big problem is not really the liquidity only, but the fraud. So it just came into force the new regulation that is called DORA, so externalization of the data into cloud and third parties, things like that. But there is a big disconnection between how artificial intelligence is helping all the real-time process, because I mean is based on several steps that need to be done in real time, and the new regulatory. So, in other words, what is happening? In the UK, we have the MPA that is 2 years late, sorry. Then in Europe, the 2,000 financial institutions are praying the European Central Bank to delay the project because they can't deal with this. So, in the reality, as you said, is in terms of regulation, there is a lot, but we are missing all the innovation.
So DORA came, but DORA will not be implemented basically.
It's already late.
It's already late, yeah.
It's been asked
You know
for
what?
another 6 months.
You know what, being Greek, I know what is DORA. DORA is Dora. Dora is gift.
Yeah.
So I hope it's a gift to the European Union in the payment system. Thank you very much. Very, very insightful.
Yeah, thank you.
India, one of the most advanced, from what I read, financial services sector, intelligence, too many scientists related to AI, etc. What is the regulatory landscape in India in order to make sure that all these is correctly implemented?
Yeah, like yes, in India, I say that even for AI also, so first that you are properly read, so India certainly is quite ahead in terms of technology and AI also, and it is being used. So as it has been said that AI is not very new thing, it is old, it is therein, but the problem with the AI is that AI is changing very fast. So it might be AI 1.0, you can have 2.0, 3.0, whatever you say. It's like amoeba. So the moment you make some supervisory things, you regulate, and next there will be something else. So if it is you are having DeepSeek, you might have later on said, in fact it came deepfake, then you need to regulate deepfake, then there might be something else. So the thing is that AI is changing so fast that regulators are also facing problem how to contain it. AI is good, as you have said, AI is going to stay. The only thing is how the regulators can have the pace, like they say in case of fraudsters. You see how the fraudsters are moving, and then you just go there and, okay, you have to be one step ahead of the fraudsters. The same way in case of regulation also, you have to be one step ahead of the whatever is the development going on. But unfortunately, it is not very easy. In India also, there are lots of regulations which are related to AI, and as of now, we have not seen much of the problem which is caused by AI, because then the regulation has been in a better shape compared to many other countries. But yes, Europe is a bit forward, but the problem with the Europe is that A says yes, B says no, C says okay, there has to be modification, D comes back to A. So we don't know.
Yeah. State 30 seconds answer.
Yeah.
State Bank of India. A state bank applies AI?
Yeah.
Is it regulated?
Yes, we apply AI for the quite long. It is, I think, 6 or 7 years we are using AI. It is very regulated, and we are very proud to say that we have used it purposefully, and it is being used perfectly. We never had any issue in AI till now.
Thank you very much. Shut up. Being in the consultancy, coming from India, also a highly regulated, Dr. Nilay, AI environment, okay? Join them together now and tell us the ethical aspect. How do you face it from your customers as a consultant before you give them what you are going to give them? What do you face? How do you face? How do you solve it?
Right. When we advise our client, whether it's on the banking side or on the insurance side, and on the wealth side, there is a journey that we go through for all our different clients. The first thing that we always do is we risk profile use cases. So we set up the right way to profile risks of different use cases, whether that's highly sensitive use cases like transaction monitoring, fraud detection, stuff like that, to medium use cases like process automation, risk scoring, and stuff like that, to a lower risk profile like conversational chatbot. Depending upon what use cases an organization is doing, we help them set up the processes in terms of profiling the risk. That's the first thing we do. Second thing, if you think about it from a life cycle perspective, once a use case is decided and there's a fund to deploy the use case, there has to be a proper acceptance of the use case and involvement of right stakeholders cross-functionally across the organization, whether that's from HR or legal or compliance or tech or data. Everybody has to come together and understand and accept so there is that adoption process. Most importantly, I spoke about a couple of principles. And from an OECD perspective, which is the overarching body when it comes to managing risks ethically for AI system, there are 6 principles that OECD talks about, which is transparency, explainability, fairness / biases, security, privacy, accountability, sustainability. So there are those 6 principles. So we advise our client to make sure that they have sufficient capability in place to monitor these kinds of principles across their AI systems. And it needs not just manpower, but also technology. And there are technologies available which needs to be implemented. And if you think about it, you can't just bring in the technology and let it go. It has to be integrated and stuff like that. And finally, since it's a very highly cross-functional topic, we make sure that the HR department is aligned and there is sufficient learning provided to the people in the organization. So we enable HR team to make sure that that cross-functional skill set is developed in the organization. So those are key areas that we look at when we enable an organization to adopt AI system.
Mr. Shadab, only one word. Ethical or unethical?
Ethical.
Ethical. Mrs. Amira, the only female representation here, and in an area or in an environment operating with your colleagues and your team on the AI part through technology implementation. I want you to shed some light if it is ethical or unethical, or how do you see things to become, if they are on the one side to go to the other or whatever.
It is ethical 100%. It's a matter of adapting to it, aligning your vision with the full team to adapt and align, and know that this is something which will help them. I don't want to talk about the risk profiling, the segmentations principles, all of this, mitigations, fraud, all of this, it's a basics 100%. But the most important that your team need to be aligned to this vision and adapt to it. And they need to understand that this will be helping them. It's additional tool to help them. So it's not taking out their work, or it's not replacing them. It's they need to jump to the train. Same like we've been discussing, they need to be part of the journey of the success. So if they are adaptable, if they understand the vision and mission, and you set it up for them, I think that they will be onboarded to the success story. So it's a very ethical.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Dom, yes. 3 risk factors when implementing AI, especially in fintechs,
yes,
which is the modern way of implementing things.
I would like to answer with an example. So recently I've been in a security conference in London where Scotland Yard present some typical problems on fraud and stealing data, things like that. And so a lovely lady from an important tier 1 bank at the global level showcased the way they are dealing with fraud. And it's been I think there were 15 slides for this use case. It's been amazing. And then finally, she was so proud about what she was doing. And then there were Q&A at the end. I raised my hand and I said, so I don't remember her name. And how long it takes for you for this case? And she's, in a very proud way, she answered 1 week. And I say, Okay, in the real-time payments world, you have a 5,000 transactions per second. For one case, you take 1 week. How do you think? So to your point, implementation is important. So the factors are understanding the process. Artificial intelligence is there, can help. So how we can harmonize and working together to reduce risk and manual intervention. You can't have 400 people in the back office for one case per week. This is the problem.
Thank you very much. Dr. Nilay, from a banking perspective now, 3 factors you considered when implemented AI.
Yeah, one of the most important factors is that it has to be ethical. So look, anything is that if it is not ethical for whether AI or no AI, anything, the ethics is something which is very easy but very difficult to execute. So first it has to be ethical, and then if it is ethical, there is a corporate governance. So you do not need to think of corporate governance. The second, you have to see whether you're creating some value. So that means if AI is there, it has to be augmented intelligence. So use AI wherein it can help your people so that they can serve the customers. So basically you are using increasing your efficiency with the value chain, and that is why the second thing is that it has to be augmented intelligence. Third, certainly if it is a bank, it will seek for the cost benefit analysis. But beyond that, there has to be something which goes for repute also, and at the same time how you are trying to help your customers. Many times it might not seem very cost effective, but if you go for the long run, you are providing some experience and memory to the customer. So for me, if it is the most important, first it has to be ethical. Second, it has to create augmented intelligence for your employees so that they can serve the customer. Third, you have to create a journey which can create memory and experience.
You remind me of my daughter. When she tells me, Dad, I ask what? When she tells me, Daddy, I say how much? So that's how it goes. That's how it goes. So I believe this is the case. Now I'm gonna change a little bit the concept. Okay, future. Dr. Amira, Mrs. Amira, doctor. I wish to be. You're a doctor, yeah. Amira, what is the future of AI in fintechs and in blockchain especially?
The use case actually of AI into the blockchain, it's incredibly very, very good, to be honest. They are using it as a KL, and they can get in 2 days through the Telegram or through the Twitter, they can get 2 million customers. This is one of the AI agents which acting as KL and start promoting the products which they are selling, which I feel that this is a good area for the corporates in order to work into it. Not only this, they've created an algorithm in order, same like the investments company, which they are coming and telling you will get you this investment. So you can go and select use that I want to do a high risk investment, which will give me a return of 20%. The algorithm and goes and select for you the best one, and you can go and enroll yourself. So the AI use into the blockchain and into the crypto, it's very advanced and it's gonna grow much more further. And I hope that everyone will be using it the same way.
Thank you. Mr. Shadab, what is the future of AI in light of the auditing and understanding it on the back? There is implementation. You have to check it out. You are consulting to check it out. What is the future of AI?
So future of AI in auditing is continuous compliance, continuous auditing, using power of large language model. We know there are initiatives happening at UAE level right now as I speak, where regulators are contemplating and in fact going into production to use large language model to
too much
run
investment into that.
Yes, and the whole objective is to run this more continuously. And the world of audit is highly sampled based, point in time world. They're trying to make it more real time and more continuous. So that's the future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dom, in Europe, what is the future of AI?
So I'd like to restart from where you left, talking about, answering your question. So fintechs are really determined. So you see a very strange behavior in the UK where, for instance, it's public, so I can make the name. Barclays decide to shut down the fintech program that is called RISE after, I think, 2 or 5 years. And while central banks, and is, I mean, where I'm coming from, are finally understanding that the future is working together with all stakeholders, starting from the fintech, because if you have the fintech on board since the very beginning of the project, you have a compliancy, first of all. You are not going to build very tricky regulation like DORA that is coming from another planet, nothing to do with what is happening in the payment ecosystem or open finance. And you are sure also that all stakeholders, so fintech, government, and corporates, financial institution, payment service provider are on the same page. Finally, looks like it's been digested, so the mindset is changing. Central banks, and I'm referring to the European Central Bank and the Bank of England, understood this. A lot of things will happen in 2025, but not all commercial banks are aligned with this. But, I mean, it's a work in progress, but this one is just to answer understanding what is happening in Europe right now.
Thank you very much. State Bank of India. State Bank. What is the future of AI in your organization?
No, future of AI is great in every organization. It's not only State Bank of India, or not only in finance. I say that, okay, fintech is related to finance, so that is why we are talking about. We have partnered with many fintechs, both at the level wherein you are promoting them, you are trying to collaborate with them. One thing is that bank need to understand that, okay, fintech are going to give them augmented, I'll say, efficiency. Fintech must understand that, okay, out of 10 fintech, only 1 or 2 become successful. So they need strong partners which can continue them. The problem which I have seen in fintech is that banks are concerned that, okay, this fintech is today, next year it will not be there. And so if you have implemented that some solution of that fintech, it might not be there because there is a lack of continuity. So this is one concern. But more so what I have seen that fintechs are also coming with not lots of, I'll say, uniqueness. In one area, you'll have n number of fintechs and almost same sort of products. So if you don't give me the name, I'll not be able to understand that, okay, out of 500 or 400, which is different. So this is one area wherein fintech also need to work, because they always go for the small and easy things. Okay, risk, fraud, AML, transaction. These are the 4 areas. What about this trade finance? What about other area of compliance? So what about like even trainings also? AI is very limited in training in banking. So what I'm trying to say that, okay, fintech are going to continue, banks are going to collaborate, because bank understand that without the fintech are there to support them. But at the same time, fintech also needs to come forward. They have to understand that, okay, what they are providing is good for time being, but the way things are changing, they also need to, there might be something which will challenge fintech also.
Thank you very much. Dom.
Can I answer just?
Yep.
I don't mean anything. I've done exit for one company. This is the second company. So what I believe that the fintechs always, maybe there is a repetition which is happening from their side. There is a lot of people go with the same saying, financial inclusion, and they focus on this. But we cannot deny that they come to solve the fraction into the financial institution and to help them and collaborate, because the financial institution is big, you know, the core banking is huge. So they are coming in to see what is the fractions, and they are trying to help in this. This is from my point of view.
That is good. Sorry. We have more than 70 fintechs and we have one platform, you know, you only need one, which includes everything. It has shopping, entertainment, banking, investment, everything. And all sort of banking, which is, I think, as of now, this is not anywhere in the world which we use in YONO. You only need one. So, but then that's okay. There are only 70 fintechs or 80 fintech. And there are n number of fintech which could have come in. So they need to improvise further.
Thank you very much. Dom, one word. If AI was going to be drawn with a color, which color that would be for you?
Blue.
Blue. Amira?
Green.
Green. Shadab?
Rainbow.
Rainbow. Okay. Dr. Nilay?
Yellow with caution.
Yellow. So that concludes the way we perceive AI implementation, the ethical part, and all the things that we have to consider. We heard about the risks. We heard about the future. We heard about different implementations, different ways of seeing it. And I totally agree. yes, considering everything that has been said, based on experience as well, AI is nothing else but implementing the different types of technologies that are helpful and, of course, will make a business, whether state or non-state, public or private, move forward. The faster we move, the brighter the color. So if I had to select a color, I would say also blue. For me. Thank you very much, everyone. Is there any questions for us?
Any questions from audience?
Thank you, the moderator and panelists. My name is Ugo Eze. I am a lawyer from Nigeria. I advise fintechs on cross-border payments, and I provide compliance services to tech companies in Africa. I have a concern, and my concern is about the ethical consideration in the adoption of AI. I've listened to the panelists give their wonderful views. But then my question is ethics relative? What may amount to an ethical issue in Nigeria or in Africa may not be an ethical issue in the UAE. And it may not be the same in Europe. And how do you deal with that? Are there laws in your countries, and have you had that experience, and how were you able to deal with cross-border ethical issues, especially when you're dealing with a business that I don't want to say may not understand or may not look at the color of AI from your perspective? Some parts of the world are still very conservative. AI is just trying to go in, but generally, how do you deal with such issues?
Thank you, sir. I will answer from my perspective first, okay, and say that just simply, implementation of technology has long been a fast train. Either you are on it or you are off it. There is an ethical impact, there is a business impact, there is a cost impact, there are regulatory impacts, but those are coming to supplement the flow or the speed that the train goes. So that's my opinion. I have more to say, but I would like to listen to first Shadab, please. Tell us from your perspective as consultant, please.
Sure. Great question, by the way. So if I divide the world in three continents, which are actively involved right now in AI development in some way or the other, right? You have the Western US side, who is less on regulatory aspect. They are more pro on developing, deploying technologies. So to your question, let's say bias, is that defined clearly in US? No, at this point in time. Europe, it's clearly defined in black and white color, and they have imposed that through EU AI Act. It's live now, and people needs to go show their compliance in the next 2 years. So it's black and white in Europe, and Europe traditionally has been highly regulatory driven. They are always one step ahead of any other country. Look at the APAC, China and all these other countries. They're I would say pessimistically progressive. They are not as optimistic as the US, but they're progressive. And I think they have done their best of the both worlds. They have the RegTech defined, they have the regulatory space defined, they're progressive, but they're also pessimistic, unlike US. So and then is it defined clearly, bias in China, in APAC region? There is no specific black and white definition of any of these things, right? Bias, transparency, explainability. But then globally, we as professionals, when we deal with finance company or banking company, wealth management company, and all these different companies, we don't look at it from a regional aspect, because by region things have differed. Some are more progressive, some are less progressive, some are more regulatory driven and things like that. So we focus on OECD, which is the international body that defines 6 principles. And they say that any AI system, for it to be ethical, has to follow 6 principles. Number 1, it has to be transparent and explainable. Number 2, it has to be biased and fair. Unbiased and fair. Number 3, it has to be secure. Number 4, it has to be private. It should manage the personal information in a private way. Number 5, it has to be accountable. And number 6, it has to be sustainable, meaning is it impacting greenhouse, for example? The whole system of AI that you are implementing, is it impacting mankind? So to answer your question, regionally, I think the regulatory space is quite different.
Yeah,
but
the same, more or less on the same line.
Yes, more or less on the same line.
Say, because I believe that as everything is happening, the global standards prevail over localized standards.
It does. Yeah. At the end, if we can map everything to the OECD 6 principles, everybody is following that.
That's one aspect. There are others. Dom, your experience, please.
Yes, and but you're right. By the way, it's not us that are telling that it's global. It's the G20 that is giving the directions. And anyway, I was starting answering I forgot your name. Sorry. Okay, and with your answer, so it's not a process that is happening overnight. It's a process that takes time. So tonight I live in Dubai and I'm moving to Africa. I'm going to Ethiopia and Ghana. Why? Because there is a huge project that is called SAPA, Single African Payment Architecture. And what is it? It's a SAPA, Single European Payment Area. So we can talk later also, because I don't want to take time from other
I'm sorry,
panelists.
Mr. Dom, I have to complete this discussion. I hope we have answered a little bit of your question. I'm sure that the questions will be relevant for us to take up. We can take it up afterwards.
Yeah,
Thank you all for your contribution here. I'm sorry for the delay, but I really liked it. Thank you very much, audience. Thank you.
Thank you all the panel members as well as moderator. Now, I would like to request our moderator to please honor the panel members.
Thank you. Allow me, Mr. Tom. Oh, congratulations, sir. Thank you very much. Let's take a picture. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Nilay. Thank you very much for your participation, sir. Of course, we liked it. That's mine. This is for? Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. This is for you. Thank you for all your input. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And this is for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all the panel members as well as the moderator for such an engaging session. Now, quickly moving ahead, our next session is the future of work in Fintech, how AI will impact jobs and skills. This session will be moderated by Ismail, founder of the World Impactures UAE. Let us also welcome our panel members, Brian, Financial Services Regulator Leader, EY UAE. Karnika, Founder and Chairman, Key Difference UAE. Karan, Global FS Senior Analyst, EY India. And lastly, Mr. Richard, Co-Founder and CEO, Sapiens Communication UAE. Let's welcome all the panel members as well as the moderator over the stage.
Pleasure. Welcome. I love the hat. Thank you. I think Richard might be outside. All right.
In the meantime, you can start.
We'll start.
Yes.
Sure,
please start. I'll call.
There you go. Oh, there we go. Welcome. So I'll proceed. I know it's not easy after lunch to keep everyone here and maintain the attention. So we're waiting on Richard. So we have Brian, Karnaka, and Karan. So not with any order. Karan, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So I am Karan Taluja and part of EY, analyst financial services, and working very closely basically on on a number of things with regards to data, technology, cost transformation, a number of these programs, looking at that at an EY level and a global level. So, previous experience with Citi, McKinsey, KPMG, a lot of, that 20 years plus experience.
Powerhouse.
Yes, across financial services.
Thank you. Kanika, I'm intrigued. Tell us more.
Might need the mic.
We'll share this one.
So hello guys. I'm Key Karnika Yeshwant, and I live in Dubai, and I represent Key Difference. So I've been in the blockchain space for about 11 years. Blockchain is my focus, my life, my passion, and everything that I'm excited about. So being in the industry for about 11 years, we have gone through different cycles, different trends, and we have been part of building many of the companies, media, and startups in the space. So in Key Difference, we have a fund on the venture capital side and liquid investment side. We run an accelerator in Dubai where we help startups in the Web3 grow, develop, build, and go to the market. And we have quite a few other businesses in our umbrella, but they all focus on helping Web3 startups get out there, get famous. So super excited to be here.
Great to have you. Maybe we can learn a bit about how you're structured, the fund and the accelerator. That sounds intriguing. And Brian, thank you. It's an honor to have you here.
It's great to be here, and thanks a lot for the introduction, and thanks to the organizers. So my name is Brian Stirewalt. I've been with EY in the consulting sphere only for about a year and a half, but prior to this is probably where I have more recognition in Dubai, I guess, that I was the chief executive of the Dubai Financial Services Authority, which is the regulator of the DIFC. Here. So I worked there for 14 years, the last 4 of which I was the chief executive, and 10 of those years I also sat on the Basel Committee for Bank Supervision. So was deep into the discussions of whether Bitcoin should be recognized, not recognized, and how technology is changing, I think, the financial sector overall.
It's amazing. There's a real wealth of knowledge here. Richard, thank you for joining us. Karan will hand... That's all right. Karan will hand you the mic.
Good to see everybody. Richard Morgan Evans, Sapiens Communications. We are a financial PR, digital marketing consultancy, headquartered in London. We've got an office in Dubai Media City, which we opened about a year ago. We've got clients across the region in Saudi, Doha, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait. My background is qualified as a barrister, but found law a little bit too interesting. So I swapped to journalism, worked for The Economist, some of you may know, as a journalist, and the Middle East was one of my key areas. So I used to come to the Gulf, Saudi, etc., to interview a lot of the central bank governors, finance ministers, the big business groups, etc. And then I got tired of journalistic poverty, and I moved in the investment banking side and worked in corporate finance and equity research with banks like Morgan Stanley, Societe Generale, out in Asia, Cairo, and London.
Thank you. So I guess we'll warm up a little bit. We've lost a few people after lunch, like I said. Karan, if I could start with you. So how are regulators looking at this technological enhancement and AI, maybe through EY, India, and the other markets that you're focused in?
Sure. So I think, at EY, what we're doing, we're working a lot with the clients, of course, trying to understand what's really happening in this market. But just before that, I think it's good to understand overall broad numbers, trends, just on fintech, even if we just go into the, job market before that. But fintech as a whole, we are seeing this, we've seen some of the numbers before, but, 230 billion, probably, give or take, right? That's the industry size. Moving to about 400 billion in the next few years. The CAGR of 20% still expected. Deal sizes are down, but yet you are seeing the kind of average deal size increasing, median deal size increasing, all of that happening. So money is kind of, going behind entities where you're seeing value. And that's really, what is happening right now. So it's not that the money is dried up, but money is seeing value, and that's wherein you're driving this. The next thing which comes is that how do you regulate overall this kind of, frame of reference, this flow of money, and all of that is where I think the regulators are struggling, kind of looking at, is it the right, areas where these investments are being made or not? What should be regulated, what should not? So all of that is coming into play. Within all of that, obviously, is overall, the job market in which, we are sort of, going to be discussing. So I think that play, that kind of references where they need to step in, that's where the regulator is mostly at, their mind is at.
Thank you. And I was going to ask Brian the same question. And then what's that impact on risk, jobs, skills, etc.?
Yes, so there's a number of things. So regulators, you listened to the previous panel, are focused on the industry. I guess number one of how AI comes into play. And there's no turning it around, including blockchain. There's no turning it around now. It's going to happen, so regulators are going to have to get on board or else just lose control. So that impacts the regulator themselves, in so many words, of how do they hire people, where do they hire people. So regulators have typically been split between, financial regulators are split between a prudential view of the world, like how much capital and liquidity does a firm have to have, and a conduct of business view of the world of how are customers treated, and are they treated fairly, equitably, and or they disclose the right information. And then about 10 years ago, probably operational risk started to stir up as a third vertical. But that also then created some challenges with hiring, because those people who understood technology weren't necessarily just outgrowths of prudential and conduct regulators. This technology is a completely different skill set. So then you had the choice of hiring. Do you take somebody who's a lifetime regulator and try to make them a technology supervisor? Difficult. Or do you take somebody from the IT department and teach them about regulation? Easier. So my strategy was to grab a technology person and teach them something about how a regulator works, to build out that team. And when I formed that team, it was probably the smallest team, but now it's equal to the other two teams. And probably will be the largest, if not the only team eventually, is just how operational risk and technology fits in. And so from a regulator standpoint, if you talk about people, I think from a pure supervision standpoint, financial analysis, that if your job was what we call elevator analysis, was this number looks like it's up and that number looks like it's down, then if that's your job, is elevator analysis, your job is done. All right. The AI can do that much quicker and more accurately, without mistakes. So people have to prepare judgments. I think so. Financial analysis is one. Market scanning is one. On the flip side, that financial analysis might be a reduction in people. Market scanning is an increase, because AI can give you a beautiful scan of the entire market and let you start analyzing. So that's an add-on piece. Financial crime search, I think, is also an add-on piece now. Legal analysis is something that is a vulnerability. If you've got a lot of lawyers, I think AI can analyze cases just as fast as your regular lawyer can. And enforcement actions is also a space where I think forensics have leaned in heavily into AI. So my biggest concern as a regulator, and I'll stop talking then, but my biggest concern as a regulator sometimes is when AI spits out an outcome, if someone has never been trained on, how a bank works and how accounting works, how do they know what the AI just gave them? And so I saw that challenge already when I was running an organization, and particularly in an enforcement case when you're doing forensics and you're going back in time, that's a big challenge. If people don't realize how the entries were made and how systems work, it's a big challenge to question what the AI result that was just given to you says.
So we're sitting in a bit of a bridge at the moment, right, between the old and the new. Yes. And it's amazing having someone of your experience here, hearing it. And, you know, DFSA isn't a small entity. It's become globally renowned, so thank you for sharing that, Karnika. What are the direct implications you're seeing through, I mean, not only AI, but technology as a whole, in the funds that you're working on, the startups, the accelerators, etc.?
Humans are always focused on progress, optimization, and efficiency. So every innovation that we do is focused on that. If you still remember, back in those days, we used to look at some pieces of information, write in a piece of paper, and then you had OCR technology where you can scan it, convert it digitally. Everything leads to a loss of job, because a job is created when there is a problem that needs to be fixed manually, and then later you automate it, and a job that can be easily automated is eliminated. And that is not going to change. AI is not the end of it. Quantum computing is going to come in the future. Things are going to become efficient within AI in every aspect, with even blockchain, how it helps with validation, security, and many layers. It eliminates certain aspects of things that people are currently manually doing. It eliminates certain cases companies, it eliminates industries, and this will be how the progress of humanity will always be. And AI is a beautiful, strong example of that. And right now we already are speaking about zero-man companies that have no employees, that are running purely by AI. There are people who are already getting job to AI. AI is paying people for things it cannot do itself. It's hiring human beings to get the job done. And all of this will only accelerate, become better, faster, and that is good for startups, it's good for companies, it's good for entrepreneurs, but it is also bad for someone else. And that is the nature, and you can always say such is life, right? So for people who are smart, who are talented, like even a developer, they can actually do the job of 100 people with the power of AI. For smart people, it maximizes their skill set. For an average person, they can work with AI and put themselves on the top tier now, because it's not just them, but it's them plus an intelligence that they're working with. That's a good example to how applications like Canva and others came up. Now everybody's a designer. Everybody could do things. It doesn't mean designers are necessarily losing job, but poor designers are. And now a normal person is empowered to do something more. So that will always happen with AI, and it's great for the market, great for upskilling, great for productivity, great for progress in general. But the people who are on the lower tier of the skill set and talent or effort would be adversely affected. But I believe AI doesn't work independently. AI requires a gazillion amount of data, and that is where the whole concept of UBI, universal basic income, was being discussed. If every individual contributes to the data source by sharing things that's happening in their life that might be needed for a blockchain platform or a data platform for an AI, that would basically be a new source of income for people who cannot necessarily contribute with their skills, but they could contribute with their data because they're consumers of an economy. Whether that happens or not, whether it happens in 10 years or not, it could just be a speculative idea at this point, but there are traces of that already happening with blockchain, because AI and blockchain closely collaborate on one part, and that is data. AI needs a lot of data, and the data needs to be traded, and that has to be traded privately, anonymously, and that happens on blockchain powered by technologies like zero knowledge and many more. So these two technologies, or two parallel technologies, they don't necessarily collaborate directly with each other, but they're interdependent in multiple ways, from a resource standpoint, from a validation, marketplace, and many more. And that is the exciting part. These new technologies are redefining what it means to work in an environment, what it means for a person to get educated. Would it be great if you're amazing in addition, subtraction, multiplication? Well, calculator made you obsolete many years ago, and computers enhanced themselves on that. So right now, you don't have to go through an industrial age education system and study things that an AI can do. The question is the intelligence that someone has to grow from the early on to be apt to a world which is having these other beings, the AI agents, AI beings, AI companies, autonomous organizations, individuals, and more. So what does it look for an individual is a bigger question. From a regulatory perspective, the risks of the job loss and the economic challenges that might come with it would be the focus. But from an entrepreneur and accelerator or fund side, it is about efficiency, and this provides efficiency. The factor of risk in terms of wrong data, wrong information, people not knowing what is happening with it, that is also something that is elevated with the blockchain and micro job economy. When there is a data that's coming out, and if that data needs to be validated by professionals, these professionals would be available to validate data coming from multiple parties, multiple sources on a micro job basis for a particular task, maybe 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours validating, getting paid for that. So the world is changing in how the economy is going to work, how jobs are carried out with one party, multiple parties, and the micro transaction economy powered by blockchain, and the new source of autonomous talent that's coming through AI is collaborating on that. So it's a super exciting space, and I think we'll see a lot more of it coming in the days to come.
Thank you. I think there's a lot to digest there, and I think there's a scientist under that cap. Huh? Richard, if I may,
Yes.
whether technology has a direct impact in your organization or not, maybe you could elaborate. And also, you know, we spoke about impact a little bit outside, and you touched my soul a bit there. So if you could,
Good.
thank you.
Yeah, no, good. Well, obviously, I'm a step away from the regulatory sphere that we've talked about, even the fund sphere, but although we do have a lot of funds clients. But in the PR and communications arena, you may think it's all about the power of the word, the persuasiveness, but AI and tech have continually make an impact in our industry too. So there's an array of tools, tech databases that we use on behalf of our clients. They look at issues that are most relevant for our clients, the sentiment analysis around that, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral, decides on whether we engage for our clients on those issues. We also look at competitor analysis for clients. What are the competitors doing? What media they're appearing in? What columns? What techniques they're using? So it's a vast array of insights that we get from the tech and tools that we have, some of which are AI-driven. The other side of it is, obviously, we still draft. We have a lot of ex-journalists like myself in the communications sphere, and we do draft a lot of reports, white papers, announcements, blogs, etc., content for clients. And increasingly, yes, you're seeing AI, increasingly as the starting point for that. We run social media channels for clients. Sometimes AI is the starting point for that. But what I would say is that, I don't know if people have read a lot of content produced by AI, but it does still have a kind of a soulless nature to it, a kind of inhumane nature, and if that's not putting it too strongly. And so what we try and do is to add that human aspect to it, because on the PR side, we believe it's the emotional connection that we create for the brands with their consumers or with their corporate partners that's far more important and more resilient than logic or rationality. And so far, I don't think AI has got there. I mean, I think what we do is probably neatly summed up in apparently I'm told it's an old Indian proverb, so I don't know if there are any from India who can confirm this, but it's tell me a fact, I will understand, tell me a truth, I will believe, but tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. And that's what we try and do on the PR side, and so far, I don't think AI has been able to get there, essentially.
Thank you for making it sound human again. Karan, if I can come back to you. Earlier when we spoke, you said you work predominantly within India, but at a global level. So, and then we spoke about the numbers slightly. So how do those numbers look in terms of jobs, skills, the future, assumptions maybe?
Yep.
If you could elaborate.
Yep, sure. So I think what we have been doing, at least with AI and EY, is looking at particularly the European side. We recently came out with an AI survey as well. So it sort of gives you a thought around both organizations and what they need to do, challenges as well as what they're currently doing. So what they're saying is, most of the organization is saying that we are expecting about 60-65% of jobs and things that happen being affected by AI. But in terms of really that translating into redundancies, things which you would feel that they are no longer needed. Currently, it's about 20%. Currently, things will change, but that's where their thinking is. What's the challenges with respect to what companies are saying is also that 45 to 50% don't have any strategy in place for AI. I think that's a big one in terms of they're seeing it is happening, but they're saying we don't have a strategy. It's scary, right? And then when you look at some of the numbers again in terms of are they actually going to be looking at upskilling people within their organization, and that's 80% who've said nearly no. You don't have an upskilling program on these. So a lot of this is also then coming down to organizations. How much would you push, right? So it's not just about expecting from people, but also as organizations, it's sort of your responsibility to frame a reference, frame a strategy, and get that in place for the next kind of phase of growth for your company.
So EY is considered one of the big four. Do you have stats or insights into how the other four are building their numbers and how that landscape's looking? Is there a sort of committee at the top that you all talk to each other?
So no, I am not aware of any of that.
It would be helpful though.
I would stay away from that. But no, definitely
competitiveness. But in this sort of era, collaboration is probably more important than competing with each other.
Definitely, but so internally at least what we know there is EY.ai, which we are using as a platform internally, that is open news, and we are heavily investing in that also. That is something which is there, which we are doing. So all of that definitely is happening. As a firm, we are pretty committed to that. So it's not just externally that we see. Internally also there's a lot of focus on that. There is specific explaining programs, upskilling programs also, and we've got a special program called Badges, within EY, which has got special AI badges that you can take and you earn them, and then there is special alliances with universities where you make your journey count. So we've invested in those kind of things.
You walk the talk when you talk to your
exactly.
clients.
We
Amazing.
hope so.
I like it. Brian, if I may, so I'm guessing some of the time you spent with the DFSA, you found some challenges. Maybe that's an understatement. But maybe if you could talk about some of those challenges, how you overcame them, and how maybe they could be of value for the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. But I'll
only do big questions generally.
There's always challenges, I guess, in the typical regulatory sense. But in the AI sense and in the automation sense, the challenge that you often have in terms of implementation is that the people that you need to implement the automation are the ones whose job is vulnerable. And so we had the best example of that was our authorization team. So as you know, when a firm applies, for a license, a financial services license from the DFSA, it goes to an authorization team, and that team does the analysis of the financials, looks at the board, looks at the bank's reputation, writes a letter to another regulator, etc. But for the lowest risk office or lowest risk license we had is just a representative office, which you really can't do much damage. We could do that without any human intervention. But someone's job was actually to do these things, right? And so they are bringing up all of the problems that AI is going to, look at this, look at that, and it's going to fail in this particular area or not. But in reality, we went ahead. So we could do that type of license without any human involvement, including the AI application would write a letter. I would sign the letter, and it would go. And really, even signing the letter was just a stamp of my signature, so it wasn't even a sign. So that's an example, I guess, where you're trying to push forward with the technology, but the people involved are the ones that are vulnerable, so they're going to be pushing back. Also, I think as a regulator, getting the budget, to have a more technologically enabled organization, not always easy there either. That the government can generally see why you need to hire 10 more people, cannot always see why you need to spend that same amount of money or less on a technological improvement. So that's a bit of sales that I think you have to do.
I mean, I started as an IT engineer, and that was one of the biggest challenges, trying to get the backing for IT resources, software, and the old BlackBerry server you used to have. You know, I remember my first CEO flying over from New York and literally screaming the building down because she was like, "Why don't I have a BlackBerry server?" And it was like, "I don't know, put a budget together." True story. Thank you for that, extremely appreciated.
I'll tell you that I've come, you know, full circle in life. So as I mentioned before, I've kind of earned the gray hairs that I have. But I'll give you an example which dates me, of course. When I joined the U.S. Treasury in the U.S., I joined as a bank examiner. I joined in the Peoria, Illinois office. But I do remember the debate, 1985, so the first year I was there, of whether our office would buy a fax machine or not. And the debate was, why do we need something so fast that you can't just wait for the mail, right? Do you really need something now? Well, of course, I mean, that debate now is turned into if I have to wait 2 seconds, it's too long.
I sense there's a book in there somewhere. There's a book title being born. I love it. Karnika, maybe if we touch upon tech, and I sense you're an entrepreneur. I mean, you have this vibrant entrepreneur character. How are you transitioning the knowledge and the sort of capabilities you have to the next generation, or those accelerators that you're working with, using what you have at your disposal?
I think that's a very good question. How do I replicate or bring scalability to the organizations that I'm part of as well? I think it all comes down to structure of the information and the process. If you can consolidate what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what worked for you, what worked for other people, and if you can have it in a pattern that can be recognized, that can be replicated across multiple situations, templatizing something and breaking it into a simpler documented process. This is how learning happens, education. I've been a very big fan of education reform from my younger age, because I quit my education when I was 14 years old and started my business all my life. And
I said you're an entrepreneur, right? I sensed it.
So always found that things should have been different, and that same process follows to what we are doing right now. When we talk about blockchain, when we talk about all these different technologies, most people don't necessarily fully understand it, but they need to implement it. So it's a matter of creating a framework, similar to how governments create frameworks for adoption of either technologies or innovation, and like they do it in Dubai quite often. It's about creating a framework for them where they know where to find the resources, what are the steps to take, what are the pitfalls, the problems that they might come across that they need to be aware of, and resources.
We hear it firsthand from Brian.
And all the other connections, dots, resources that might enhance them, because end of the day, for someone to implement something, they need to be resourceful, and if they're not resourceful themselves, your framework should enrich themselves to do that. And this is important not only for startups we work with and entrepreneurs we work with, it's important for our team, because I cannot be with a gazillion startups at the same time. We need this framework to enable our team to replicate, to enhance, and take this to them in an understandable manner. Not everyone can deliver the same, not everyone can comprehend the same way across cultures, across regions around the world. So it's making it super simple, driven by a process, and scalable, adaptable to different situations, and time testing it and continuously updating it. And this is so critical in the world of technology, because without that, you're not going to have adoption. If for example, the same fax machine, it was a choice of budget, but if it had 200 buttons and you need to go through a training to use it, it might also create a knowledge gap under, do I get used to it? Even do we need this challenge? And that's the challenge with blockchain and AI at this point that we are fixing, because there is an onboarding barrier to entry. People need to learn something before they can utilize it, but they need to learn a lot more before they can be proficient at utilizing it in their business to change, disrupt industries. That's the same thing that goes with the AI upskilling question as well. Anybody can go to ChatGPT right now, or the DeepSeek that was causing havoc in the US market in the last 2 days. You could put some message on there, but there is something called prompt engineering to put the right kind of message to get the right kind of answer. Do you know if that information is correct? Because AI is good at making things appear more real, even if it's a factually a wrong thing. They can convince you in the way they write it. So this is a set of learnings. This is a set of processes that people need to adopt. And if an organization can do that across to their employees and everybody in the organization in a positive way, in a way that will help them do more, without that cultural backlog, oh, now they just want me to do more at the same price that I'm being paid, kind of a thing, that pushback that might come. So it's a matter of cultural refinement that goes into an organization to bring that education and impart it to the people to make them better, make them future-proof themselves for the future jobs. If they don't, they're going to be out of this company and out of their next company. They're going to be jobless. So the right approach to get them through that kind of an educational framework in a more practical, proactive way on the job, something that they can implement right now and verify, validate. I think the verification, validation is the biggest challenge that we'll be having moving forward. Is going to be a critical component in scaling any kind of a new technology knowledge base and implementation cycle.
I feel like this is a perfect panel, right? You've got Brian with his history at the DFSA at the heart of it. We've got the perfect entrepreneur, the governance through Karan, and then the community builder between me and Richard. So, yes. Richard, I'm going to pose a last question to you, and then I do something called WOW, which is words of wisdom from everyone. I feel what you do plays an integral part of the key messaging for any organization. How challenging is it today getting that key messaging out, given all the I'll call it distractions?
Yeah. Well, it's not for nothing that today is called the attention economy. So there's a multitude of channels, media outlets, social media outlets, influencers that govern what you see, think, and hear. So trying to get your message across as an institution or a company these days is probably never been more difficult. That's slightly self-serving for me to say, but I do think it should be illegal that a company shouldn't have a PR company advising it, but that's another issue. But so you do need to be able to get your message out there clearly, precisely, concisely, and also consistently, because if you say one thing on your social media channels, something else in the media, everybody picks on that very quickly. So the risk in today's market is far greater than it was, say, 10 years ago, when you didn't have the kind of 24-hour multiple channel coverage that you do today. AI does help in that. It helps you analyze, look at what other people are saying, look at what the media is saying. So it certainly helps drive that message. But as I said in my previous answer, those messages, I think, still need to be human-based. If they are computer-based or AI-based, they just don't have the resonance or the emotional resonance with the market, with companies, with the consumers that you want them to have. And I think that's the most important thing. I mean, increasingly, we see that companies say, look, brand awareness is one thing, but where's the ROI? Where are the sales on the back of it? And there are a lot of, social media channels, SEO, etc., where you can see the leads, you can see where it's come from. But everybody has access to those. It's a kind of commodity market. So I think for us in the PR world, actually brand identity, authenticity in that, and brand awareness have probably also never been more important. But you've got to cut through such a cluttered market. You've got to have purpose in what you say, which chimes into what you're doing, to be convincing and to continue to grow and secure market share, which is what obviously commercial businesses are about.
So does that then distance you from certain companies that may approach you where it's only about ROI? So does that mean you become selective and, you have your focus in terms of the values of the PR company you've nurtured?
Yeah, I mean, we have values in terms of what kind of companies we act for. So that's certainly true. No, I think the best combination is the combination of a strong brand identity that resonates with the market, coupled with the more technical tools you can use now with the SEO side, because all lead generation tools, you have databases today where you can do cold email marketing campaigns, but the open rates, if you're going to get a subject line which says, your CEO has just quoted the Financial Times or appeared on CNBC here or Al Arabiya, whatever, there's probably more of a chance you'll get that open rate than if you're saying something different. So I think getting a strong media profile just supports the more technical tools you can use today to drive sales and to get those leads, essentially. So it's a mix of the two, I think.
Thank you. And I've just remembered that fiery boss I had was the CEO of PR21. I don't know if you remember them on Good Street. They were under Edelman.
Under Edelman, I certainly know Edelman. Obviously,
Right,
they're a bit
yeah.
smaller than us. But
so there was a little boutique agency that was owned by Edelman.
Okay.
I never forget that lady. Wow. So I'll start with Brian. The wow moment, the words of wisdom, maybe based around AI and the risks we're facing. What would be those words of wisdom coming from yourself?
It's a good question, as they all have been. So my words of wisdom is, I'll go back to where I kind of started here, that AI is coming. Every company is going to have AI, So when I poll audiences sometimes in these type of conferences, where I ask the audience, how many of your companies use AI, right? And you get about 70% of the hands will raise yes. Maybe some of them are just afraid I better raise my hand, But but I would say that the number is not 70. I'll focus on the number is the 30 who just don't know that their company is using AI. And AI doesn't have to be a front-facing, doesn't have to be a client-facing algorithm that's being used. I mean, you can use AI for expense control. You can use AI for risk management. You can use AI for a lot of things in the company that don't have a front face. But it is a massive challenge for the industry to get around. My words of wisdom for anyone that is a regulated firm is that regulators are going to focus on outcomes of AI. They're going to focus on the governance that came along with the purchase, the development, and the use, and then look at the outcome. And boards of directors and management are going to be held responsible for outcomes at the end of the day. So AI is not something that you plug in and then blame later. Oh, formula went wrong. I don't know how those people got cheated, and I don't know how they lost their money. Formula went wrong. That's the answer will not fly. So that's my word of wisdom, I guess, for anyone who's operating in the regulated community.
Thank you. I think the underlying message today is be ready, right?
Be ready.
Be ready, be prepared.
Yeah.
Prepared. Karnika, if I may, your words of wisdom?
Sure thing. Drop everything else that you're doing for a few days. Focus on the new technologies that's coming. Spend dedicated time, like a full few days, because with the noise around you, your day-to-day responsibilities with everything that's going on, you cannot dedicate 2 hours towards this. It's going to be impossible. You need to drop a whole weekend or a whole week, if possible, to just get you up to speed on what's happening with blockchain, what's happening with AI and all these new emerging technologies. If you don't do it, someone else who does would overtake. So it's better you do it, spend the time to know, and then you can make educated judgment on what it is that you're going to be doing with it in your life, in your business, and for people around you. So it's super, super critical and important to understand these from ground up, not to look at them and feel, hey, no, this is not going to fly, this is bad, this is not going to work. People said that about Bitcoin 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even yesterday, and now they're all trying to adopt it. So let's not get to a point where we push the AI the same way, to a point that it's here, it's happening, it will proceed whether you like it or not. So it's better you be part of the narrative than being opposed to it and be left out. So taking the time to do it would be super critical, and then as it goes, you are always responsible for the outcome. That's a very, very, very good point. Making that as part of your stance in your organization is critical. I think from a PR standpoint, you were addressing earlier about how humans are important and how the AI cannot do the automated PRs. We have been part of building 3 of the top 10 crypto news media outlets, and we face the other side of it. PR agencies and PR companies using AI to generate something and bringing it over, and it doesn't make sense, a lot of sense, and we had to go through that session to educate, to improvise that part. So just because there is a technology doesn't mean you could do something crazy with it. The same goes for, because there's AI, you cannot just make an output out of it without that end result, something that you can sign off with your name and say, hey, this is a good output. And the same goes for blockchain as well. When you create anything, that should have the same standards of quality, value, and utility as it goes in any business transaction. So focus on understanding them inside out, deep from the foundation. If the fundamentals are not right, it's just the shallow things on the top. It's not going to float for yourself and for people who you are trying to create value for. So that qualitative process and framework is what I would emphasize very strongly on. It's the make or break movement, and take some time. Thank you.
Very quickly, are you mentoring? Are you working with the global startup community, entrepreneurs? What kind of communities are you working with?
So for us, we are focused on blockchain-powered startups
Here?
in the global, across the world. We are located here, but we work
okay.
across the world for blockchain-powered companies.
Amazing. Karan, I know you're very young, but what are your words of wisdom?
No, not so young. Let's look like
youngish.
But so I think there are 2 things. One for the companies, one for people, right? I think for me, that's very clear. For the companies, I think overall what we want to do and what we would like to say is that focus on the strategy which you talked about, focus on upscaling, all of that, but really look at your entry-level jobs, what is happening in that space, because that's something which we have not discussed, but that's the most affected currently. How do you bring people in the firm and as you grow and yet take them through the journey? Because it's important for some of the businesses. I know cycle times are short, but business cycles are short now, but still that coming in journey with people at the entry level being cut or reduced, how do you give that experience or homegrown kind of talent who see through strategy, who come up the ladder, who basically are the next forerunners? How do you see that? That's a big question for companies to kind of look at, apart from strategy, things we discussed on upskilling, all of that, right? And for people, I think just understanding that a lot of this is coming to fore. How do you build hybrid jobs, hybrid skill set? Now this is a combination, right, of what we've been hearing: technical skill set, soft skills, mindset. A lot of this combination is required. So when you're looking at that, don't just look at your tech skills. Look at your soft skills. Look at the industry knowledge that you're getting. It's not going to be one thing for the future. You're going to have a blockchain developer with compliance knowledge, right? You're going to be an AI product developer or maybe with financial services background overall. So you are going to be a combination or probably not be doing something. So that is where hybrid job skill set, I would say, focus on.
It'd be interesting 5 years from now to look at numbers from mega institutions like maybe this part of the world, Alpha Tame, Landmark Group, and globally to see that maybe a current workforce of 30,000 in 2 years even, or 5 years, what that workforce looks like. I think that's going to be, and an organization like EY can, you can share those numbers and how it happened and how beneficial it's been, I think, eventually. So in 2 years, we'll be having a very different conversation. But the idea would be that those people are spilling into new opportunities that open up. And I think in my world, that's what I see. A circular economy forming around AI. That would be the utopia approach, I think. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, just one thing to add on what you mentioned. I think that hybrid part is so critical for people to be finding themselves a place in the new economy. Because if they don't find that hybrid skill set to survive, they just could be a slave of an AI. You don't want that.
Yeah. True. So we've got a call at 6 tonight, an online call. But after that, I'm going to spend the rest of the evening and tomorrow doing a lot of research, Karnika. Thank you. And I think most of the people in the room. Richard, if I may, from you also. I know you've got a few grey hairs, but
yes.
What are your words of wisdom?
I'm trying to hold them at bay. Words of wisdom. Yeah, well, I was reading a book. I'm sure some of you read it, called The Coming Wave recently. That's a good book because it sets the AI technology drive in context. I mean, man has been adapting technology since the invention of the wheel, essentially, and we'll do the same with this advance again. I mean, you know, you can look at the Luddites in the UK in the 19th century revolting against the mechanical looms and spinning wheels, which were supposed to destroy the industry, but they didn't. So as long as we have the right attitude and see AI as complementary and servant, not master, and regulation obviously has a role to play in that to make sure it's on the right course. But I think, you know, a couple of reports as well I was looking at recently. One, the World Economic Forum saying over the next few years about 84 million jobs will be destroyed, which sounds scary. But in the next paragraph they said, but 97 million jobs will be created. So it's not as scary as you think. One other statistic perhaps I can leave you with from another book I was reading, How AI Thinks. Again, that might be familiar to some of you, but it was basically saying that ChatGPT 4 or 5, I can't remember, has about 1.7 million parameters, which is essentially judges the metric on the sophistication of the architecture that governs the model. So it decides on how accurate the output is compared to the input. So that has about 1.7 million parameters. Any of you want to guess how many parameters the human brain has?
A quarter of that?
100. Sorry, 300.
Wow.
300, so compared to 1.7 million for ChatGPT. So I think we're going to survive for now, anyway, at least.
I'm intrigued. I think Charles was communicating with you telepathically because he was like, make sure you mention the Luddites.
Actually, I've got a question.
Okay. Well, we're on the questions now, so thank you to my panelists, and we'll take a question, Your Lordship. Who's it aimed?
Right.
Who's the question for?
I think you'll have to decide who.
Okay.
So
the first one who puts their hand up.
The title of this discussion was how will AI impact jobs? So I think you only came to the end of that. So like the Luddite story, I'm an optimist, thinking, well, it's something new, but it'll create more jobs. Can you give some ideas of future jobs you think that will be created out of AI? What new industries may turn up? Can somebody look further into the future and say, right, these are new things? Like when the internet started up, you know, you suddenly got a whole host of things like Hotmail and all these other things which wouldn't have been possible without internet. So what sort of new industries could be out there which could not have been possible without AI?
I think every industry is going to be disruptive, but Kanika?
Yeah, I can definitely go on. So the jobs are going to be, when you have a solution, when you have something new coming in, that newness creates problems, and you need solutions that meets that problem. So for example, the moment 1 year ago when AI came and people are using a lot of content from AI, there were more tools and solutions coming to find AI created content and scoring things based on that, based on even what Google came about called EAT scores to validate authoritativeness of a piece of content. So that created a new set of industry or mini industry that dealt with anti-AI content or authoritative AI content as a new vertical which did not exist 12 months before. So that's one example. But imagine if AI is percolating into different industries, disrupting them. Every change it brings is going to have an equal and adverse effect on something else. And just like the computers and hyperlinks in the internet, with all the browsers and ease of use caused viruses. And now you needed antivirus as a space that would help you protect, defend yourself. In the same way with AI, it is going to have issues like AI impersonating people for KYC, facial recognition. Now you need to know if the person that you're looking at you is real or fake. We just recently saw a marketing campaign where they took the inauguration video of Trump, changed the audio to say what they wanted to say and promote. So now how would you know if the video that you see on your WhatsApp or your Instagram is the real Trump, fake Trump, or someone else? So these are the new problems that AI is basically projecting, bringing, it's an opportunity and a problem, and the problem needs to be addressed, opportunity needs to be amplified. And this will happen in every single sector, and that 97 million jobs or whatever was supposed to be created is going to be created in those solution areas. And every one of those solutions will be inefficient solution. And then the question is, what can be more efficient in delivering the same thing? How can it be done faster? How can it be done efficiently? You just mentioned about the fax, something coming faster, and the slow mail could still do the job. But right now, if an email comes to you 1 minute late after someone sends, you'll be restarting, clicking on that refresh button until you get it. You want that immediate, real-time effectiveness on something. So now you have industries that deal with latency. How do you make something instant, asynchronous? And this is something that will reflect in the AI world, whether it's a matter of accuracy, whether it's a matter of data protection of your data, and if there's a data marketplace out there, what happens with the data marketplace? What are the laws around the protection of the user data? How is that anonymous? How is that data transferred between different parties? How companies are using it, the compliance around that. I could go on with a million new industries that will develop from here, but the end point is every new solution in the world will bring new problems, which will need new solutions, and that needs to be effective, which means no more new solutions, and this chain will never end until the annihilation of humankind. I hope that answered.
Thank you, Karnika. I think the video, was it with Kamala Harris having a brawl with Hillary Clinton, was even more funny. That was brilliant. At the funeral of Jimmy Carter. Did you want to add something, Karan, or Richard? Are we okay? Did we answer?
Yeah, no. All I'll say is that I think in one way new jobs will be created, but probably far greater is that the jobs that exist will adapt. For instance, my sister's a consultant radiologist. She spends her time looking at MRI scans, CT scans, etc. But AI has now developed as much so it can identify very quickly in scans what are the serious ones not to bother with. So the radiologists supporting her are now being trained in how to identify, is the AI accurate in what it's identifying? So their job role is changing. In the PR industry, there were reports saying that junior PR people will be most at risk because they can't add much value to what AI can produce, which was good for me to hear, so the senior people are safer. But what I see happening is that the junior people will be trained more in AI. They'll be trained more in terms of how to input the correct information to get the best output. So we'll still need them, but their roles will be adapted, I think, just as much as there may be new roles created.
Thank you. If it's okay, we're running a little bit late, so I just wanted to thank our panelists, Brian, Karnika, Karan, Richard. It's an honor. Thank you for your time. And I love the synergies.
Thank you for this session. Now I request a moderator to honor our panelist.
This is new. What am I awarding them for? Okay. All right. I can start with that. Monica? Yes. You take pictures? Thank you so much. Miss Brian. All right. It's a pleasure and an honor to do this. I may stand for this one. It's such a difference. Thank you. Thanks for joining me. I went through the forum the other time. Thank you. Mr. Cullen. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for doing this. You in the groups? Yep.
We can have a group photo for this?
Yeah, okay. Yes. Yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, all right. You make sure this one. I'll send it to you first. I think we'll have it already. Yeah. Might have shown this again.
Thank you once again. Now let's move to the next session that will focus on open finance and AI. Moderating this session is Gustavo Antonio, founder and chairman, Carter Capital. Ibrahim Amin, founder, Delson Associate. Dome independent consultant, DS Payment. I welcome them all on the stage.
Okay. Right. So. Okay. Does it work? No, it doesn't work.
You need to just switch it on.
All right. Hello. All right. Well, let's call the panel members. How many we have? 3. All right. Where's the dome? Yeah, exactly. All right. Please have a seat. Okay, so for the very few brave people that are still here, congratulations. It gets boring in the afternoon, I understand that. The same way. Have a seat, please. Let me perhaps tell you first that I'm not supposed to be here.
I sit there.
But I need this to put my papers. I'm not supposed to be here, you know. I was originally asked to replace one of the panel members. Then that moved to replacing the moderator. And I was asked to be the moderator just like 10 minutes before the event, which is great. Why? Because we're speaking about AI, no? Well, I ask all my AI systems to generate the questions for this conversation. Couldn't be more appropriate. This is really an AI conversation.
And the answers?
Yeah. No, I don't have the answers.
But you know, Gustavo, now I'm very worried. I have no idea what you are going to ask us.
Don't worry, they're very, very general questions. I asked AI, I said, AI, can you be nice to my panel members? And he says yes. So we'll see. Before we move on this panel, a couple things. I asked AI what open finance means. It wasn't even able to come up with the right answer. There are about a million answers for open finance, right? I asked AI, what's the definition of AI? There's about 1 million definitions of AI, so really nobody knows what we're talking about. Where it was a little bit more specific is on the connectivity side, right? So just to tell you that most of the things that are said here, nobody really knows what we're talking about, all right? Because we don't have the definition of what's going to happen. We, super smart people, have our best guesses about what's going to happen. So before we go into the questions, just a very quick, definition of who you are, etc., for the public, and then we go to the questions.
I mean, Gustavo, first of all, thank you for the lovely experiment that you made, because I think that, I have something very interesting that's happened recently to a friend of my son that used the artificial intelligence to write a CV, and the answer from the app has been, of course I can translate this for you. So what he did, he cut and paste and sent the CV, started with, of course I can translate this for you. So answering your question is, artificial intelligence is something that is going to support us in every task, but we still need to keep control. So we can't things going on their own. And this one is not a joke, it really happened. And of course the candidate has been disqualified because it was clearly something that was doing without using his brain and controlling. So artificial intelligence, I believe, and that you said many times today, something that can help us to do something more, and we will discuss more today, but not taking control of any kind of task.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any initial remarks before we go to some questions?
No, much has said. I'm here since morning, so everything I think has been said and talked about. So let's continue.
All right. Well, a lot of things that we're going to talk about have been discussed already, by the way. So I asked my panel members to be very free in the answers the way they are. So AI is wondering, not me, AI. So we are getting more and more interconnected, right? All of us are interconnected. So the question is, how this new interconnection that we have, interfaces, that we'll call them interfaces, will be altered by the use of AI. The question is, for instance, you all know Alexa, right? The power, who issues Alexa, which company? It's one of the companies that has Alexa. Microsoft. You have it in your room and you tell Alexa, Alexa, open the windows for me this morning. So the question is the following for the panel members. What about if tomorrow morning Alexa starts doing all this on its own? All right? We don't tell Alexa to open the windows. Alexa sort of guess what we want to see. So the question is perhaps starting by Dome, what do you think is going to happen if that starts happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't share my life with Alexa, but with Siri. That is similar.
Same thing.
And I tell you that a couple of times I opened the curtain on my bedroom thinking it was the sunrise, but in the reality my phone was set up with a different time zone. So I was coming from the US, and for some reason the phone was still keeping another time zone. And it starts saying, good morning, Dome, how are you today? It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, okay. And so I just did Siri, shut up. And I shut down Siri from my phone. And it's happened that driving the car was telling me it's taking 10 minutes to go to the station. How do they know that I'm going to the station? There's some things that make me worried. So literally, it's artificial intelligence. So this is why I believe more and more that we need to be aware instead of being excited, because originally you can say, oh, it's beautiful. No, I keep in control of myself and my life. So just two simple examples, but think in business. When someone is going to predict that, I mean, securities and stock exchange, things like that, it is fake election. And that is not just the emails that we say Russian are sending, or I don't know what. I mean, it's something that we really need to understand.
Ibrahim, how would you feel if artificial intelligence starts telling you what to do from the morning?
Well, so let me be the devil on the other side. So implementing artificial intelligence in the life and taking over your lives and getting connected with what the panel discussion, the topic is all about. So let me tell you the other side of the story. So since I am representing the major of the third world countries, so nothing is connected. So when I tell AI, my AI doesn't know anything. My AI doesn't know the my bank account balances. So the country I am from is Pakistan, then I am consulting Bangladesh, Egypt, Philippines. So all these countries and the banks, and if we talk about the larger banks, one of the biggest banks in the country, so they have 6 departments doing all the credit due diligence and scoring. So one department doesn't know what the other department is doing. So there are 29 regions all over the country, and they are continuously repeating the same tasks. So I was just talking with my friend here. So creating a limit, sanctioning a limit for an individual SME consumer takes 90 days for that bank. And then we have a fintech there in Pakistan which processes 160,000 loans a day. So that's a huge gap. Then let's talk about UAE. So if we talk about Bangladesh, Philippines, Egypt, India, Pakistan, so there are 4 million labor camps, 4 million laborers, blue-collar residents, UAE residents here in UAE, who doesn't have a bank account. And then what happens with AI when there is no data? So what should we do? So that's the main big question.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you're getting into it. So as I continue looking into AI and what AI thinks about this panel, AI came back with this question, which I think is very interesting because we're living it all today. It says, okay, Gustavo, let me know if increased connectivity will lead to greater social connection or increased isolation. Have you all been at a place where husband and wife are sitting at a restaurant across the table and they're both on their phones? Or you see a group of kids at a university and they're not talking to each other, they're all on their phones. So they're all together, they're socializing, but they're all connected. So will this, we'll start with you, Dom, will this new connectivity lead, in your opinion, to increase isolation or greater connection, social connection?
Yeah, I think that we touched this point in other session today. Also raised the point. It's very good. I mean, I give you my answer with another example, but of course insulation. Isolation. Why? Normally I have my daily shopping, so I don't eat meat, so very easy going. So fish, vegetables, and my Siri. And telling Amazon Fresh what to order because it's based on what is missed or what I order every week. So a few days ago, Amazon, because there's been a storm in the UK, didn't deliver. I went to the supermarket. I was lost. I didn't know what to buy. I didn't know what to ask. And I felt very isolated. And so it is why, again, sorry for being boring, but we needed to deal with artificial intelligence. It can help, but not resetting our brain or the capability to do all tasks that we normally do. Translating in my small word, the mode of the payment is exactly the same. So there is a lot of fragmentation, insulation, so we don't know exactly what is happening, and the G20 directive is building sort of principle based on the fact that there is interoperability. So it means that I need to be free to decide where I want to send my money, which kind of instruction I want to send. And this is what we are doing in the payment field.
Yeah. So, Ibrahim, what's your take on that?
I would tend to agree with my friend here. So we need to distinguish between ourselves where to apply AI and where to avoid it. So the example you said, so it's an isolation, of course, being into a gathering and connecting with the Z world, the Z generation, and where they are going, we all know. So they are getting apart from their characteristics, their ethics, and some things like that. But as far as payments is concerned, then we have to adopt AI. We have to make millions and millions of people's lives easier by generating AI-based models and lending them, making their businesses, their work life, their home life easy.
No doubt, that's one of the areas of AI. As I said at the beginning, during my research, we took 5 minutes before we met. The system was speaking really about the multiple phases of AI. Now, let me just come back to this. The other area where AI is very concerned about this panel is very interesting because I had an experience just a week ago about this. AI is concerned of how will AI, right, it's talking about itself, will affect communication and language. Let me tell you something that happened to me just 10 days ago. My family came to visit us from Chile, right? They speak basically Spanish. They speak 0 English and 0 Arabic. So my wife and I were very concerned about them going around the town, right? And one day, it was my sister and the two daughters, said, Uncle Gustavo, but it's not a problem. I said, well, what do you mean you notice? You don't speak any of that stuff. He says, and she takes out the telephone. We were at the port in Jumeirah 3, and she points the telephone to an Arabic panel, something like that. And it translated instantaneously into Spanish, right? I had never seen that myself. So you can understand, it's very, very practical, very real. AI all of a sudden eliminated the language barrier, right? No more language barrier. So, Ibrahim, what do you think about the relationship between AI, language barriers, and this connected world that we're supposed to be in?
So, great example. I have been experiencing this since 2016 when I got permanent residence Chinese. So I'm using this since 2016 in China. So you can talk with ChatGPT, and the ChatGPT can translate and any picture in verbal language, and I'm like experiencing it since I visited China, and I spent good 3 months there. So it made my life easier. So there you go with AI.
So that's the positive side of AI.
Yes.
Communication.
I mean, I'm pretty old, I'm 57, and some of you maybe remember that at the beginning, the mobile phone, different companies, they didn't talk to each other. So I call only the mobile phone of the same service provider. Then we have seen the integration. So Vodafone, I can use EE or the others, but at the very beginning it didn't work. So the barrier of the language, the gap of languages, has been covered with the interoperability. And again, talking about payments, and it eliminate the fragmentation, and again, talking different language means exactly it is. And to resolve this problem, has been introduced in payments the ISO 20022 standard, sorry for being technical, but means the same language all over the world. And again, your family, I don't remember who was from your family.
Chile. They came from Chile.
So they were using the screen. But again, the translation needed to be considered as a basic translation. Yeah. So, and of course, in emergency is working. So I'm able to do what I have to do.
I was amazed. They were going around this
It was
town.
amazing. And again, we needed to use the artificial intelligence as a support to our tasks and not to replace us.
Yeah. So I told you this was going to be a very short panel where at the end of the day everybody wants to go home, etc. I have time for one more question and then some concluding remarks. But the next question that AI wanted us to talk about is very interesting. It was discussed before, but I would like you to get back into it again because it's a fantastic topic for which answers may vary. So how can we make sure that AI is used ethically and responsible in this connected world? We have AI right here. It's in front of us. I'm using it right now for this conference. So how can we make this ethical and responsible? Can we? Ibrahim?
Very tricky question. So I need to consult AI. Of course, we need to build policies around it. We need to make policies, make regulations, and we need to think about ways to make it ethical. We need to first think ourselves how to convert our policies and regulations around it. And of course, we need to make it ethical because a lot of things happening around. So I am leading an initiative which is cybersecurity related. Right. And there they are using ethical hacking and other things also. Right. So, so we need to build policies and regulations around it.
Don, lei parla italiano, no?
Un poco.
Un poco, sì, abbastanza, no? The next question is not in Italian. Just your view on the ethical part of AI.
Yeah, I remember a very old movie, because I said I'm 57, that I don't know if you remember, no, you are younger than me, but it was War Game, where two computers that finally started with the simulation of the war, but finally the Third World War happened because of two computers to control everything, but everything was fake. So I think that we needed to identify the definition of what is ethic. And then from there, we can literally build a boundary and understanding where is the right place for it. But the point is, not everyone is mature enough. So maybe conversation like this should happen more and more.
Yes. So basically, as Leonardo da Vinci said, this is a much larger subject than ourselves. He repeated many times during his life, and it was a fantastic thing. This is the end of our questions. Generated by AI, as I said to you, which is very interesting. Any questions from the public? If there are questions, great. If there are none, great. We'll go home. Any questions? There is a question right there, the gentleman.
So, are we expecting any kind of payments via the AI? How, if somebody can imagine AI into the payments, maybe like Face recognition is of course one. So I'm just wondering what exactly the status of payments via the AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening. I have a question for you. Is coming from artificial intelligence, or your question, or is coming really from you? It's a joke. So the point is, it's already happening. Think that for section screening and blacklist on SWIFT, normally when you generate a credit transfer, there are 4 million checks need to be done. It is why it's taking time. With artificial intelligence, thinking about similar names, and of course, is going to slow drastically all the timing, especially in the real-time payment world, reducing also manual intervention and risks. But again, it's a process that is really that process. It's not someone that is going to authorize with the artificial intelligence payments or determine that they go out. So he's going to raise some red flags, sorry, and then there is the human that is going to say, okay, can go, and not automatically. But it's already in use.
Okay, so I think that this is it. We're not going to bother you more. You've been here for a long time during the day, everybody. Thanks to the public for still being here with us. Thanks to the panel for being so great and taking the questions from AI in a great way. Congratulations, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Gustavo, you had an amazing idea. I love that.
Thank you.
Now let's move to the last session, Future of Finance, Building a Resilient and Inclusive Ecosystem. For that, I would like to invite Mohammad Salman Anjum and Ibrahim Salman from InvoiceMate. Please welcome them.
Barbara, sei italiano? Come te? Questo? Di Sardo? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a joke. We're connected, huh? Where are you from?
All right, thank you very much. Ibrahim, if you can join.
We talk just one leg.
Hello. Right, so we are at the end of this day, and Ibrahim and I will wrap it up. And the whole proposition is to just recall what we have done, recap what we have been discussing since morning. And that will be the future of finance. So if we move to the next slide, and that is the only slide I have for this, and you can see the slides on the side. Okay, this is one, and probably then there will be the last one. So you can see the whole blend of financial services is around fintech, right? Whether it's lending, whether it's payment, whether it's like other proposition investments and other things around financial services, everything is around tech. Financial services has been happening. It's the first profession of human race, and it will be definitely going to stay till the last. So Ibrahim, just if I'll quickly ask you, how much of an influx of the AI, we have been speaking about AI since morning, and of course other digital tools. You being in the cutting edge technology zone or era, how you want to experience financial services, how you want to see the future of financial services?
Yeah, so basically I come from a generation of very lazy people. Yeah, my generation, Gen Z and then Gen Alpha, we are extremely lazy and extremely, you can say, absent-minded. So with the future of finance, I imagine a world whereas every sort of nitty-gritty is already taken care of by my AI agent, which will be basically taking care of paying my credit card bills on time, checking my statements if there are any additional charges or not. That's, I'm talking on a consumer level. If we go on a business level, then of course we need an AI agent or more often say an AI assistant to manage all the, you can say, the boring paperwork of the what is required when activating a financial service. So yeah, future of finance to me looks like completely automated for us just to make the end final decisions. We don't need to log on to our app, make the payments, sort of monitor each and every step. I think in the future, these things will majorly be automated and sort of create a very easy user journey for the end user.
I'll add on something to it, that future of finance is invisible, right? Currently, we've been experiencing a lot of financial services without going to the financial service providers. Like we do buy now, pay later through Amazon, through Noon, through other platforms. We do a lot of consumption of financial services like payments when we are even not touching the financial services provider. So the back end is there from the financial service provider, but the front end is someone from the courier company, someone as a platform providing that financial services. So this is the future, invisible financial services beyond the tech and all that. One last question for you is that being a tech entrepreneur and especially fintech entrepreneur, how you want to contribute to this sector and beyond AI and other technologies, how would you like to bring change or disruption in this space?
Yeah, so the biggest, you can say, opportunity currently that I see in the financial sector is to basically make financial services even more accessible than they already are. In terms of B2B financial services, we all have seen a lot of B2C growth in the current market, just as you mentioned that, okay, you can do BNPL through Amazon or stuff like that. But the B2B sector is still far behind. And we need the SMEs or the small businesses and the corporates to to enable them with the access of financial services in a very seamless and invisible way.
Thank you. And with that, I'll just roll out the last slide of today, and that is around that, yes, tools and instruments and methods of financial services will be new and they will keep on coming. Today we have talked about AI, tomorrow we'll be talking about quantum, day after tomorrow we'll talk something new. But the fundamental of financial services will remain the same. It will stay the same, and that is trust. Never, ever any financial services can sustain if there is no trust. Whether we are bringing AI, whether we are bringing blockchain, crypto, quantum computing, if it is not backed by trust, then it is not going to be sustainable. That's what we've been discussing since morning, that yes, there is inclusion required with the help of technologies, but at the same time, that in financial inclusion has to be backed up by the trust. With that, I would like to close our discussion on this and the overall recap of the day. And we can't go off stage without saying thanks to our WFC. I still remember our first engagement back in January 2018, right? And that was the first interaction we had. Almost every year we meet each other. Unfortunately, only once in the beginning of the year in January, and then of course they have other things to do around the world in the different event arena. So all the best to you guys. I hope we'll not meet the next year. In between, of course, we'll definitely catch up. But
one last big round of applause for this gentleman.
For the gentleman and of course the team of WFC. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the evening.
To close this today incredible journey, I invite Mr. Azam Ghani to give the closing note.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude World Finance Council's Fintech 2025 Dubai, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to all of you for making today an outstanding success. Throughout the day, we have explored cutting-edge innovations, engaged in insightful discussions, and connected with industry leaders who are shaping the future of financial technology. From AI-driven finance and blockchain applications to regulatory advancements and AI and the future of digital payments, today's sessions have reinforced that fintech is not just about disruption. It is about building a more inclusive, efficient, and secure financial ecosystem. And a heartfelt thanks to you, our speakers, the panelists, and moderators for sharing their knowledge and perspectives. Your contributions have truly made an impact. To our sponsors, partners, and organizers, your support and dedication have made this event possible, and we deeply appreciate your efforts. Now, if there is one lesson we take away from today, it's this: fintech is not the future. It is present. It is the present. The way we bank, invest, and transact is evolving at an unprecedented pace. And it is up to us, the leaders, innovators, and stakeholders to shape this transformation responsibly. While today's event is coming to an end, the journey continues. I'm delighted to announce that the next edition of the World Finance Council's Fintech 2025 Europe will be held in Amsterdam on September 22nd and 23rd, 2025. We look forward to welcoming you there for another 2 days of insightful discussions, networking, and collaboration on the future of finance. Let's continue the conversations we started here today. Stay connected, collaborate, and be the driving force behind the next wave of financial innovation. Once again, thank you for being part of the Fintech 2025 Dubai. Wishing you all the safe travels, and I look forward to seeing you in Amsterdam.